In the final unit of the book of Deuteronomy, Moses sets before the people of Israel a challenge that's intended to help them always remain true to God and to his covenant. In Deuteronomy chapters 27 through 30, Moses gives instructions about two ceremonies that the people are to enact once they enter the land. Welcome back to the fourth in our Growing Disciples series on the book of Deuteronomy. This final unit in the book of Deuteronomy, the third of Moses' three final sermons, establishes two ceremonies that put a challenge before the people of Israel. These ceremonies are intended to show Israel that they are standing at a crossroads. They have a choice, either to choose life and blessing in covenant with God, or to abandon the covenant and experience curse and judgment. Now, the first ceremony involves setting up an altar and a memorial stone near Mount Ebal, in a place not far from Shechem, about halfway between the Dead Sea and the Sea of Galilee, that's in the north-south direction, and to the east of the Jordan River, kind of halfway to the Mediterranean coast. It's kind of the geographical centre of the Promised Land, perhaps in a way that Uluru is pretty much the centre of Australia. And so right in this central point of the land, an altar was to be built for offerings and sacrifices, and some stones were to be covered in plaster and inscribed with all the laws given by God to Moses. And there, a ceremony was to mark the confirmation of the covenant, a ceremony that was similar to many other covenant treaties of the ancient Near East. And Joshua did, in fact, do exactly this at the geographical heart of their new nation, and that's recorded for us in Joshua chapter 8, verses 30 through 35. You can read ahead into that if you wish. The second ceremony was to be a grand drama, to be performed on a massive scale in much the same place, where two groups of 6 tribes were to stand on 2 mountains facing each other, with the Levites at Shechem in the middle. On Mount Ebal, 6 tribes were to recite God's curses. On Mount Gerizim, 6 tribes were to recite God's blessings. The big message, obviously: ignore the covenant and be cursed, keep the covenant and be blessed. Now, it's not totally clear as to how they actually did this without a very big sound system, nor is there a record that they ever did. But let's get a feel of these blessings and curses. So in Deuteronomy 28, if you fully obey the Lord your God and carefully follow all his commands I give you today, the Lord your God will set you high above all the nations of the earth. All these blessings will come on you and accompany you if you obey the Lord your God. You will be blessed in the city and blessed in the country. The fruit of your womb will be blessed, and the crops of your land and the young of your livestock, the calves of your herds and the lambs of your flocks. Your basket and your kneading trough will be blessed. You will be blessed when you come in and blessed when you go out. The Lord will grant that the enemies who rise up against you will be defeated before you. They will come at you from one direction, but flee from you in 7. The Lord will send a blessing on your barns and on everything you put your hand to. The Lord your God will bless you in the land he is giving you. The Lord will establish you as his holy people, as he promised you on oath, if you keep the commands of the Lord your God and walk in obedience to him. So we are to imagine all of this being shouted out from Mount Gerizim. It's one of those symbolic pieces of action, prophetic theatre, as I think someone once called it. And it sort of adds drama and weight to this message. The people are really going to remember this. And then after all of those blessings were to come a reply from the other mount, from Mount Ebal. Verse 15, however, if you do not obey the Lord your God and do not carefully follow all his commands and decrees I'm giving you today, all these curses will come on you and overtake you. You will be cursed in the city and cursed in the country. Your basket and your kneading trough will be cursed. The fruit of your womb will be cursed, and the crops of your land, and the calves of your herds, and the lambs of your flocks. You will be cursed when you come in, and cursed when you go out. The Lord will send on you curses, confusion, and rebuke in everything you put your hand to, until you are destroyed and come to sudden ruin because of the evil you have done in forsaking him. The Lord will plague you with diseases until he has destroyed you from the land you are entering to possess. The Lord will strike you with wasting disease, with fever and inflammation, with scorching heat and drought, with blight and mildew, which will plague you until you perish. The Lord will cause you to be defeated before your enemies. You will come at them from one direction, but you will flee from them in 7. And you will become a thing of horror to all the kingdoms on earth. Your carcasses will be food for all the birds and the wild animals, and there will be no one to frighten them away. The Lord will afflict you with the boils of Egypt, and with tumours, festering sores, and the itch from which you cannot be cured. Now, actually the curses go on and they get worse than this, but I think we've got the picture. The people of Israel stand at a crossroads. They can choose obedience to God with abundant blessing, or they can go their own way and endure terrible curses. I suppose it's like the Garden of Eden and the snake and the forbidden fruit all over again. And it seems actually that Deuteronomy is anticipating the same tragic outcome, almost as though the events of the future exile, centuries down the path actually, are already known. So Deuteronomy 28:45, all these curses will come on you. They will pursue you and overtake you until you are destroyed, because you did not obey the Lord your God. The Lord will bring a nation against you from far away, from the ends of the earth, like an eagle swooping down, a nation whose language you will not understand, a fierce-looking nation without respect for the old or pity for the young. They will devour the young of your livestock and the crops of your land until you are destroyed. They will leave you no grain, new wine, or olive oil, nor any calves of your herds or lambs of your flocks until you are ruined. They will lay siege to all the cities throughout your land until the high fortified walls in which you trust fall down. They will besiege all the cities throughout the land the Lord your God is giving you. And so what are we as Christians supposed to make of all of this blessing and cursing and the tragic outcome that indeed history shows us? While we might be tempted to shake our heads at the people of Israel and say, how could they fail so badly? Faced with such a clear choice, surely they would choose blessing, choose life. But like Adam and Eve before them, they did not. And since we are also from the same stock, human and fallen, I suspect we would have been no different. If only someone could have come among them and shown them a better way, to personally have shown them how to worship God in truthfulness and with integrity. Well, it turns out that many centuries later, at a well just near Shechem, right between Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim, pretty much on exactly the same spot that these blessings and curses were to be recited, there was a conversation between Jesus and a Samaritan woman. Jesus offered this woman living water such that she would never thirst again, a spring of water welling up to eternal life. He told her that God's true worshippers will worship his Father in spirit and in truth. And the woman believed Jesus, resulting in her eternal blessing. Perhaps you might like to read John's Gospel, chapter 4, for yourself right now and recount that event in that same place. The woman's life sounds like she had indeed been cursed up until that day, until that meeting, but from then onward she had living water and abundant blessing. Turns out that Jesus can cure all curses and turn them into blessing.